Hi, my name is Solomia Zahrai. I am a business representative working in IT. This is Work with Ukraine, a series of interviews with Ukrainian-based and Ukrainian-founded company, which continues to deliver services despite the circumstances in Ukraine. Today, I have a great guest with me, CEO and co-founder of Beetroot. Andreas, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. And yeah, I'm founder of Beetroot and Beetroot Academy. So we are like kind of a tech ecosystem. We're Swedish, Ukrainian. I'm Swedish myself, but let's say 98% of our business is in Ukraine, or our delivery, at least before the war. So we are delivering basically, I mean, we're helping scaling tech companies to build tech teams in Ukraine. That's our sort of consultancy business. And additionally, we are with Beetroot Academy educating thousands of Ukrainians every year in tech, especially in the regions, around 60% women. And we actually started the academy in 2014, just after the start of the war, basically. So yeah, so that's the ecosystem. And also we have had a tech hub in Mariupol, which, yeah, obviously we don't know exactly the status of that, but yeah, luckily our team members there have just recently been able to get out of the city. So yeah, so we run 600 people in total. Yeah, clients in 25 countries, many Scandinavian, but also, let's say, European, US, Israeli. Yeah.
So everything in a mix, sort of. I have seen on your website that you position yourself as a social first company and a company which values a lot of the ecological responsibility and sustainability aspect. So can you go a bit into this aspect, and then we will go from there?
Yeah, definitely. So when we started the company in 2012, like two young Swedish students moving to Ukraine, we kind of had this idea and vision that we wanted to create a company that did as much positive social impact as possible. So that was the basic idea, and that sort of emerged during the year. So one of our core focuses, or maybe our core focus, you should say, our mission is to be as impactful and sustainable as possible in the different aspects of that. So it's, of course, it's the ecological aspect where we, for example, we work a lot with green tech clients. We are compensating our CO2 emissions and so on. Yeah, plenty of things in relation to that, but also the other aspects of yeah, impact is giving education to people in yeah, giving work opportunities, gender equality, as well as, like, of course, like impacting the economical development, especially in regions and so on. We have around, yeah, let's say 60% of our teams are not in the major IT cities. So there's a whole like sort of philosophy, but so we're looking at the impact on the client side, in the societal level, as well as inside. I mean, inside, then it's mainly related to the human aspects of giving great work environment, but also to help to develop not only professionally but also personally within the company.
Yeah, I think it's a very important note to make for the world we live in and the world we want to make in the future, for it to be a better, more productive and more healthy environment, both mentally and ecologically and in any way possible, right? So the question which comes naturally to me is, why would two young students from Sweden come to Ukraine to found the company here?
Yeah, it's a combination of let's say gut feeling and random factors that played together. But it turned out so that we had both learned Russian from the beginning. We were having these ideas. We were entrepreneurs, I mean, and students, so we had tested different things, but never really built anything big. And we thought that, yeah, shouldn't we like move to Eastern Europe somewhere and set up something where we can create a positive impact? So it was kind of naive, adventurous, and so on. And we kind of we evaluated at the time, this was in 2012, so before revolutions and war and everything, we evaluated different locations in Russia, in Belarus, in Moldova, and in Ukraine. And Ukraine seemed to be, and I think we were very right on that, the place that was absolutely the most, let's say, welcoming for us, open. And we also saw, so yeah, we played like objective and subjective parameters together. And Ukraine was like sort of scoring top on both. And then we moved to Odessa from start. It was kind of experimental. We had our like Lada, like Zhiguli, old Soviet cars we were driving around with, and things were kind of, we were having fun. And then came Maidan and the war. And then we kind of got really, really attached to Ukraine and said, okay, we're going to stay here and we're going to, try to help to build up this country as much as we can, and use the business as a tool to do that, basically. So we got stuck. I mean, in a good way. Really, I still consider like moving to Ukraine like probably one of my best decisions in life. So, yeah.
Why do you think that Ukraine is the most welcoming, in a way that it was the right decision for you? What made you fall in love with the country in a way?
I think I fell in love gradually, but from the very start, I mean, we've always been met by openness, like people wanting not both openness, but also kind of a drive to be part of something bigger, to develop society. And this, of course, also increased during the last 8 years. So it's like, I think it's the feeling of being part of something important, like something transformational in different sense, like as a country, like gaining more and more like this united, independent feeling, and also like, of course, like for global values such as freedom and democracy and so on. But also, like, I mean, in the industry we work in an industry that is part of transforming the society and the economy. So it's been like a very, and of course, I mean, not least importantly, I mean, by now, after almost 10 years in Ukraine, I mean, most of my friends are Ukrainians, and I always find it very soulful, like Dušan. It's hard to, it's very hard to, especially now after 10 years, it's very hard to put my fingers on like what are like the things. And I love, of course, Sweden as well, and I go there and so on. But I really feel, especially now when times are really hard, that Ukraine is a important home, second home, first home, second home. Yeah, it's always the question, but it's definitely home.
I can relate to that personally very, very much. So since you're in Ukraine, almost like you started the company 2 years after you started the company, the first active war broke out. And now with the aggression and the war being full speed, how do you see that has impacted your business? How do you see that has impacted the people that work for Beetroot?
Mm-hmm. It's a very complex question. Of course, I mean, first time around, we were very small. I mean, we were 15 people, and we were all in Odessa, and we had a very tight kind of, I mean, I knew everybody, girlfriend, wives, husbands, parents. I mean, it was very close. And I mean, at that point, Odessa was a little bit shaky, but it never got under like this direct conflict. But we had evacuation plans and so on. And I think that in some way it kind of united the team and united in kind of, it was a tough time, but it also was the time that kind of defined us as a group and as a company. I think now it's still, of course, early to say about like the long-term effects, but one thing I can say for sure is that, I mean, both, I think the general Ukrainian spirit, but also with Beetroot as a company, we've always been very outspoken and active, both internally and externally, about that we try to make an impact with what we do. And also that we are like a company structure, very like decentralized in responsibility, so like a high level of like trust and taking your own decisions. I think those two factors has been very helpful at this time. So of course, when the full-scale war broke out, I mean, there's a lot of different things happening at the same time, and it's very hard to be in overview of what's going on. But what happened is that a lot of people sort of self-organized with initiatives. And of course, we had the contingency plan and we followed like certain things by the book, but of course, a lot of different things appears in, and so we have had this like huge groups where and have still where people help each other basically. So it's semi-formally formed or more like informally grouped. And yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I think that people react very differently. And of course, this is like a traumatizing, really, really hard time for everyone. But I think one of the things is like the sort of level of, both the level of uniteness and that we are in this together. Everybody's trying to do kind of their bit in one way or another in terms of this fight for freedom and independency and so on. But also each other, like some people have, you know, almost became like almost like hyperactive and be like very, very on top of things, while maybe someone else is, yeah, a little bit zooming out, and it's harder to but kind of be very accepting with that and trying to just help each other. So sort of remarkably, I couldn't even expect that we have a really, really high percentage of the team who are like back to work, basically, especially if you count, of course, we have some people in the army and some people volunteering and so on, but except from those who are like for that reason in another place, it's around 97% of the team was like capable of working, which is like kind of amazing, even though like, yeah, it's not like we're pushing as that as the key point, but it is important, of course, to have the, I mean, I think people also feel that that being able to, like for the IT industry to be able to continue operate, it's extremely important for the economy, obviously, as things are so challenging in overall. And it's been surprising also to me, like, I mean, we had all kind of worst case scenarios where we would lose all the connection with our teams and there would be no internet, no electricity and so on. But remarkably, this has not really happened. Very short periods in specific spots, but yeah. But we'll see long term. I mean, we'll have to, I think, work a lot. We already started to work with psychologists and so on, like about like how do you work through this. I think for myself also, you feel like one day you're like, yeah, hyperactive and very on top of things, and next day you're like saw some horrible news and you're kind of down. So it's yeah, these are tough times.
Yeah, it's the body and the mind needs the time to process the information which is provided to us, and with the war being broken out and having that sort of influx of information from different resources, it's something that we are not really used to. However, I think you pointed out that your team is back to work almost everybody, because in a way work provides this safe place. So the only thing which is stable in an unstable situation is kind of your cocoon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I was surprised even like after, I mean, the first days we had said, you know, everybody has to, you know, take yourself into safety and so on, like don't think about work. But even after like 3-4 days, people started to like actually ask like, okay, I'm in a safe place? Can I start work again? And like, I think it creates this feeling of normality in some way. Yeah.
The new
but also
normal.
And of course, like a lot of people like kind of temporarily changed, especially in the like management team, like suddenly you're not maybe recruiting as much, but you're like organizing shelters and evacuations and yeah, you're just completely switching tasks. But now, I mean, now it's been a while, and I think for the last couple of weeks, it's more and more back to normal. And we also see, I mean, our clients were also very, very supportive, but very worried at the same time. And I think most of them now start to see that actually, well, March passed and we were actually able to deliver. And yeah, so it's, yeah, I think somehow, which is a bit strange also to say, but somehow things are normalizing at the same time as, of course, the war is still very, very much on. And yeah.
How has the war affected the business?
So frankly speaking, so far less than I was afraid of. I mean, if you would ask me like 1 week into the war, how things would look in the middle of April, assuming like full-scale war continues. But I think we are working on like a very, very best scenario here. So, I mean, there were like, a couple of project clients who dropped off. Of course, a number of people who cannot work for various reasons related to the war. But in overall, that has been maybe, say, a dip of 10% in the business, not more. And at the same time, we also see actually an inflow of new business. But it has affected our strategy of things. So we had a strategy even before that we wanted to become more multinational as a company. So that we have speeded up. We set up offices in Bulgaria, where we did an acquisition of a company, and then we have we had since before an office in Sweden, but also now Poland and Romania is on the way. So this is speeded up at the same time as we are also recruiting inside of Ukraine again, and coming back like more and more now for the last few weeks. And then the academy, that's more of a like sort of a quicker disruption in the sense that, I mean, maybe studies is not, if work is a priority, then studies is not your top priority maybe when you are in the very hot times. So I think the academy now, we are back to now around 60% of what was before the war in terms of number of students studying, but there we also changed strategy quite significantly, because since the academy was founded already in 2014, educating internally displaced people in Ukraine from Donbass and Crimea, it's kind of very logical, and we already had a base set up in Sweden and in the EU before the war. So now the effort, like one of the big efforts, is to educate Ukrainian refugees in Europe. So we're right now, like we already started it, but we're also fundraising for it, both through companies and public sector, basically.
Can anyone apply to be part of the academy, and what directions do you provide?
Yeah, so there is around 12 courses. If I list them, I might miss something, but let's say that it's the programming courses such as front-end, JavaScript, Python, and so on. There are QA courses, a QA manual. We have a UI UX course that is quite popular, and also some more like project management, HR courses, and so on. Yes, everyone can apply. Of course, we have like a limited amount of places, but we have quite big scale. Like last year, we educated around 3,000 people in Ukraine, where around 70% started a tech career. So that would be around 5% of all new tech specialists in Ukraine last year. This year, we were planning to do 6,000 in Ukraine. Now we assume significantly less, but we still have the capacity to deliver. So it actually depends on how successful our fundraising campaigns. But it's we will continue to provide regular service, and then we will also provide this kind of school, like depending on funding, scholarships for refugees, basically.
What is the prerequisite? Let's say, can students apply, or can people who are still in school apply? What would be the aspect, the lowest educational background that the person can apply? So
since our focus is on people starting a career straight after, that's like all the courses are adapted to the work market. So I think the base criteria is that you should be in a life situation and age and whatever where you are actually planning to start a career in tech. So that could basically be anything from 17 to up to, I think our oldest students has been around 60, but average like 28, 30 years, but it doesn't matter, like it's a span, but it's of course the better like sort of computer usage habits you have, the better. And there are certain, like we do some tests before, which doesn't like require you to be like a tech specialist before, obviously, but it sort of tests your interest. And then I think the key criteria is always the motivation level. So we always interview all students, explain that, well, this will take a significant effort. Like you're talking at least 20 hours per week, usually more, to sort of successfully finish the courses. And then you need a computer, you need good internet connection, and you need to be able to join the classes in evenings and weekends, basically. But they are all online these days. Before the COVID, we used to have like 19 academies throughout Ukraine. But yeah, nowadays it's all online, basically. But classroom, like active teacher based and so on.
I think COVID has prepared us well for the displaced world in general. In a way, helped us with the war.
Yeah, we discussed this the other day, that if this would have happened without the COVID have happened before, we would be much worse prepared for it. Because yeah, really the world changed in the sense that wherever you are with a good internet connection and a bombs not hitting your house. Yeah. So
the last question which I like to ask is, what do you think what it means to be Ukrainian right now?
That's a tough one, but I think yeah, I'm thinking, should I answer from my own feeling, like, because I'm like not Ukrainian, but I know.
You have the observational standpoint of view, so
yeah.
After 10 years in Ukraine, you can call yourself Ukrainian.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think it means that you are in a kind of an existential fight, basically, that is important. I think really like the vast majority of Ukrainians feel this feeling of the importance of this fight to the bones. And I think being Ukrainian now means both an incredible amount of like pain and trauma and so on, but at the same time, an amazing feeling of we can do this, we're gonna survive this as a country, we're gonna rebuild our nation, and we're gonna be proud, and we have the right to be proud, yeah, for the fight that we are having, both for Ukraine but also for the world, or the civilized free world, or yeah. So yeah, I think it feels important to be Ukrainian or Ukrainian attached these days. So
very true. This was Andreas from Beetroot. Thank you very much for your interview, and I hope everything will be fine very soon.
Everything
Victory
will
to
be
Ukraine.
victory. Thank you.